Welcome to Middle Fingers Up, the show where we hold our heads high and our middle fingers higher. I'm your host, Kieran McKay. Today, I am very delighted and deeply honored to be in the presence of Brent Dodginghorse. Brent is an esteemed Indigenous and diversity sports advisor and a motivational speaker. Together with his wife, Sonia, and daughter, they run Dodginghorse Ranch, a place dedicated to supporting healing, and a hope for a future where culture, language, truth, reconciliation, healing, and relationships are all cherished as a fundamental value to all of our communities. And I really love that. I took that off their website, so I can't say those are my words. I'm so truly excited to have Brent join today. I feel like this is a conversation that's been a long time in the making. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Such a beautiful morning. Thank you for the coffee and water. It's a really good day today.
It is a beautiful day today. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's Stampede week. So I know it's a busy schedule for many. So thank you for carving out time. It's been a long time in the making because I have been nervously texting you in the background since November. Slowly, I've had this whole plan. Okay, I'll text today, then I'll wait a couple months and I'll try again. I don't want to bother him because I really have been excited. This is one of the conversations that helped me kickstart this podcast. As I was telling you, this is a place where we highlight voices, help people who want to learn and grow, build awareness, and all the things in between. And you have been on my mind of late because I myself have been having some interesting moments about inclusivity and what is discomfort and what's my role. And these are hard feelings coming up. How do I deal with these? And so I just think it's really good timing and when you showed up today. So thank you. And I guess we can just get right into it, I feel like.
Well, they say it's when the time's right, when it feels right, and the creator's time, it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
And that's why we kept in touch since November, and a good friend of ours, Corey Johnstone.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of just, when things start rolling, you kind of keep it in the back of your mind that you have to give back. Not society, but just give back to your knowledge to help people learn, and people that are trying to make a difference, you help them out when you can.
I really appreciate that. And that's very meaningful because part of this progress of getting you on, and like you said, when you're ready, sort of waiting for that for myself was, I look up to you. I know a lot of people listening today have heard your story, have heard it through you, maybe also know you well. You are a valuable member of Calgary YYC. You grew up here. And so there's been lots of conversations that I have been having outside of listening to some of yours. And so I'm really excited to just get into it and pick your brain today. So sorry if it's too forward, you can just put your boundary up, but I'm eager, and that's all it is. It's curiosity. And so I'm hoping that we can just actually start. And I don't know if this is the beginning for you. So you can decide if we're starting at the beginning of your story or the middle of your story. But I like to start with Dodginghorse Ranch. Maybe you can share the story that led to the beginning of Dodginghorse Ranch.
Well, that's, I guess let's go back to the pandemic.
Okay.
You're going back to the pandemic when everything shut down.
Yeah.
And the world is completely chaotic. Mm. And all the social issues, the mental issues, the lockdowns. At that time, I was a council member of the Tsuut'ina Nation, and my wife was a school teacher at that time. And it was very controversial on both sides. I won't get into that. Mm-hmm. But the human being side, that you see all the social issues going on. And we always wanted to do more equine training. I was trained in South Dakota near Standing Rock, and it was a program called Spirit of the Horse. Okay. And I felt I wanted more education. I wanted to know more about how horses heal people and why they heal people and what's so magical about them. And I learned lots through that program. And Sonia was the one that said, let's go to PA. Let's go to Prince Albert. There's a place called Cartier Farms. And they were accredited by the U of S. And U of S psychologists and everybody was behind this program. And I'm very thankful. They wouldn't let us in because they said it's COVID. But I just got on the line and I convinced them.
Oh, look at you.
I convinced them to take us and put up the safety measures and whatnot. But we got accredited. We went through the program. And that's when DH Ranch really, once we got that certificate through Cartier Farms, it gave us empowerment and it gave us purpose to start up the ranch because they made us do a business plan. They made us build off our strengths. And really the DH Ranch has been there for hundreds of years. My grandmother, Katie Dodginghorse, lived till she was 102. And before she passed away, she had specific instructions to the family of keep your family values alive, keep the culture alive, keep the language alive, use the beauty of the horses, the land, the medicine, the creeks, the rivers, the animals. And in our language, our culture, they're never gone. Their spirits are always there. So these teachings always come back to us. So that's when the DH Ranch was formed hundreds of years ago, because our people were the people of the land. But this Cartier Farms just kickstarted a business plan. And I wouldn't say a business plan, it just teaches you, like entrepreneurs in this day and age, they have a lot of strength and courage and resilience. It just gives them a roadmap of what they want to do, and they find that courage within themselves to pick passion projects. And that's what we did. So at that time, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and MS, and it was very scary. And I laid in bed for, 2 months. I was 250 pounds, solid muscle, and my vision went in my left eye. My body shut down, and I just prayed to the Creator, and I said, when or if I get through this, I want to just concentrate on projects that mean the world to me. And I narrowed it down to diversity and how can I be a better person to make the world better. And I wanted to work on the ranch and be, how do you say it? Because the ranch was so healing for me, and it's helped me in my journey, that everything that we created at the ranch, horses, the barn, the teepees, the land, everything about it is so good for your spirit and your soul and your emotions and your well-being, that we thought not only our Indigenous people need it, but everybody else needed team building. Everybody else should have an opportunity to spend a time on the ranch. So that's how it all started. And there's been, I'd say, a lot of positives, but when you do something, Sonia is very good on social media and it has millions and millions of views and likes and follows. There's always the negative to it. There's people that always pick apart and throw cheap shots or comments. But I think in the big picture, you just got to remember that you're doing it for yourself and you're doing it to help people, and that's all that matters. So that's how it started.
Wow. And so what's the experience that you want people that arrive on your ranch? Like, what's experience you want them to leave with or feel?
Well, from the moment you get into the DH Ranch, we want to make it a memorable experience. So what we did was, when we start taking our very first clients in, for the first 8 months to a year, Sonia is all about the experience. The moment you get there, clean cut grass, nice fence, beautiful birds outside, feed the birds. Appearance is everything. Clean porta potties, clean barn, horses are nicely groomed. It's all about the experience. And then what we did was, every single client that went through there, we asked for their feedback. And good, positive feedback, sometimes negative. Not negative, but improvements. Then you take it all and just you want to build that experience for your clients or your visitors. And that's what we've tried to do. And I grew up in hockey, and I grew up in that sports atmosphere. So I always wanted to ask people, what do you think we could do better? Honestly, I know you liked it, but they're like, well, try this, or be open to this, and we try it. It's the experience it's a little bit of Western. A lot of people refer to our ranch as the Yellowstone thing. Yeah,
but I can see. I've seen it on the website. I haven't been there, but I can totally imagine that through that comparison. Absolutely, from what I got to see on the website. Yeah,
but it also has the Indigenous feel from our Indigenous background, because we do have the Western and Indigenous background. Yeah, but we want people to unplug from society, or unplug them from their laptops, and just enjoy the ranch and the beautiful nature and everything that the ranch has to offer. Yeah. Any stories of folks that have come through? Anything that sort of speaks to you? Well, give you an example. There's a famous lady that's stopping by this week. Oh my goodness. Willie Jack from Res Dogs. She's into relay races. And, she's been a fan. Sonia has millions of likes on her TikToks, Sonia Dodge. Yeah. So she really puts it out there. It took a while for me to get comfortable to TikTok. I know, I'm not even there yet. Good for you if you're there, because I just had that conversation yesterday with my sister-in-law. She's like, you got to get on TikTok. I'm like, I don't know, man. I can't. I just don't like seeing myself every day on the internet. So then you think, why would others want to? Yeah. That's kind of my, people are going to get annoyed, but that's what people want. That's promotions, right? It's free. It's a free app. Yeah. And sometimes you got to put yourself out there. There's not a lot of people that are going to agree with what you're doing, but Sonia is very good at it. We also have Jonathan Morasti, a guy that plays on Shoresy. Oh. Yeah. So he's one of the tough guys that play on Shoresy. Oh, that's awesome. So he stops by, and basically, the ranch is bringing all different types of people to the ranch. Right. And it's to learn. And it's to say, how are you guys doing this? Oh, I always wanted to see this place. Wow, you're doing that? And it's just collaborating, because everybody is interested to see what we're doing, but we're just doing our spin-off on what we think, not society needs, but what we just want to help people and find find strength within themselves. One of our the most valuable client is James Smith. And I wouldn't even say they're a client, they're friends. So, I guess, you know what? They're not even clients. So it's family helping family. And that's the way we were taught. When you see people that need help, you reach out and you help them. That's the way that our values and our elders taught us. I guess you can say we don't let people self-destruct. You always offer help. And James Smith, I don't know if you heard about the tragedy, but they had a tragedy just a little over a year ago, but 17 people were stabbed in their community. Okay, 11 people passed away. 2 brothers were involved. He was stabbed and he passed away. The other one died in police custody. Right. So because of that tragedy, there was 17 people that were injured, 11 lost their lives, but hundreds, if not thousands, and millions of people were affected through that tragedy. And very grateful for our James Smith family reaching out to us through TikTok again and asked if they can come to our ranch. Wow. And when they came to our ranch, we set up programs. My wife's been a school teacher for 24 years, but she quit. I've been in leadership for 15 years on the nation. My education comes from the elders, the people, our nation. We formed a program, the DH Ranch, and we just offered them our services and family helping family. And they've been coming back every summer, every winter. And it's, you're dealing with people that have PTSD. You're dealing with people that witnessed their parents pass away right in front of them. You're dealing with kids that lost both parents. And the moment we get there, it's game on, because you have to bring strength, resilience, hope, happiness. They're crying. You shed tears with them.
Yeah.
So the moment they get there, the horses are healers, the teepees are healers, the birds, the dogs, everything is set up around team building.
Yeah.
If we incorporate our culture, we have Indigenous hand games, we have traditional games, we do healing circles. And when you can put smiles on people's faces or get them to talk and laugh, and it's not us, it's the programs, it's the culture, it's the horses.
Yeah.
Really, the horses are the medicine. And the horses have the ability to heal people, or they have the ability to connect to them where the humans don't.
So going back to the beginning of this conversation, you said you wanted to check out if horses are magic when you went to the training program in PA. So coming back to it, tell me more about that. So you discovered there is healing to horses, and in that I didn't get to follow up that in the training that you and Sonia went to, right?
Yeah.
So what are you finding that the horses are bringing to the healing component?
I felt we had the knowledge within our communities.
Yeah.
And we just weren't tapped into it.
Yeah.
So in the Tsuut'ina culture, they call it iskle. It's a horse. In the Cree culture, they call it mistatim. So these horses helped us through very tough times. And these tough times were 1877 treaty was signed, in Tsuut'ina. And part of the Treaty 7 is the Blackfoot Confederacy, Piikani, Siksika, Kainai. Tsuut'ina Nation is Dene, and then you have the Stoney Nakoda, Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley. And then your Métis, but they're not part of the treaty, but they were there. But Métis Region 3. So going way back, the horses were crucial for us because they were survival, they were medicine, and they were spiritual animals. So the reason why I say that is every single Indigenous person is connected to a horse, Iskle or Mistatim. And the ladies had a connection to the horse. So they had travois. Travois are with contraptions that are built behind a horse to help when they pack and move camp to follow the buffaloes.
Okay.
They set up travois, and the ladies would ride on the horses with the kids in a cradle board in the back.
Yeah.
And the warriors would use the horses as part of battles or hunting for their families.
Right.
The medicine men at that time, the spiritual leaders, would have a horse, a gray horse. The Blackfoots that were taught to me by their elders that they had a gray horse or a white horse, and they would do spiritual cleanses within the community and dances. They would paint their eyes, and their eyes would be painted, and they would have war paint. Every single marking on a horse signifies cultural significance. The 4 stripes on a horse would signify strength for the 4 legs, the 4 directions in strength. The thunderbolt would signify speed. The handprint would represent the people. So all these things, even on the front, on the nose, there's lines. Those are war coups. Those war coups are like badges of honor and battles won. So all these things, they tell a story. And I didn't know that we knew it. And we just didn't know how to articulate it. But telling stories, we're natural storytellers. We just had to go back to our roots. And so when you really go back and you think about it, yeah, the horse has been connected to us for a long time. And we didn't know that all our Indigenous teachings that could be shared with the world, we just wanted to share with people that the horse has, when you clean his hoof looks like a arrowhead. And that arrowhead touches the ground, which is Mother Earth. And his tail touches the ground, which is Mother Earth. And then his ears are facing the Creator, which is very spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing. I'm learning a lot. You asked someone about a story, and appreciate you taking the time to go back, sort of starting at the beginning. Because often we do start in the middle of our own story, or as we're figuring out who we are, where we are, what's our purpose. And so to hear you talk about it, and I really appreciate you saying sometimes to understand, we got to go back to our roots. Yeah. And I think that's a really nice message for anyone and everyone that maybe is listening today and is struggling with certain things, certain demons, certain fights in their head and externally, and to just hear a message like that saying sometimes the answer is we got to go backwards in our time machine.
Well, I'm going to talk about it. It's about respect, respect in yourself, identity. And I'll talk about that later and when we get into the sports. But really, it's about identity and that strength, and not having the courage to just be who you are. And I'll get back to the some of the James Smith stuff. Is we've had thousands of people that come through the ranch, and there's a lot of PTSD issues that are going on with COVID, relationships, broken relationships, people that lost their loved ones, divorces. It could be anything. But what the horses do, I call it Indigenous WiFi.
Indigenous Wi-Fi.
As soon as you're around a horse within 10 moccasin steps, can you guess a horse's BPM, beats per minute?
Oh.
Heart rate?
No, I wouldn't be.
Take a guess.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, is it slower or is it faster? Does it slow down?
Yeah, it's slow.
What would a regular one be like?
Well, your regular ours, a human heartbeat, 68. And if we get really nervous or mad or...
It would go up, right?
Yeah, we're over 100.
So for a horse, maybe at the human, like, so would maybe a horse be below 60 then? Like...
So a horse's regular BPM, you got to guess.
Oh my God, I'm so scared. 52.
It's high. So it's way lower than that.
No way.
So it's as low as 26 beats per minute. And a horse's heart is 8 to 10 times bigger than ours. So the horse has the ability to plug into our heart. And as soon as we get around a horse, that's why we feel that relaxation moment. It's the connection. And when you...
It's like calming your waves, like as your wavelength, I guess, or whatever energy you're putting out, it's sort of got its...
I call it the Indigenous Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
so you're
totally signaling. Yeah.
So when you're around a horse, all of a sudden you're starting to hear like the horse doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, that's his way of being calm. Horses fart when they're relaxed.
Yeah.
Or they're constantly looking at you. They pay attention to you. They have these radars on the top of their ear. They walk to the left, they're looking at you. They have 4 blind spots. Do you know the 4 blind spots?
No, I do not.
Take a guess.
What are the 4 blind spots? So, I would think to the sides.
Well, actually, they're to the sides. Their eyes are on the side.
Because their
eyes are on the side.
So then right in front of you would be one, right?
That's one.
Yeah.
Another one's on top.
On top, okay, yeah. Below?
Yeah.
Right, like below, yeah.
And then
there's one more behind, which we would, okay. Yes, wow, yeah, good teaching.
So there's 4 blind spots. So when you get around that horse, you're concentrated on the horse. All of a sudden, you're not thinking about families or a fight that I just had, or I've been kicked out on a couch for 2 days, and whatever is bothering me, or, the horse is paying attention to you.
Yeah.
And the way our elders and the way our people said is they can listen to you. They know when you're mad, happy, or sad. They have that ability to heal you and connect to you. And you build that relationship with that horse. So that's why it's so important.
Well, the horse is like almost role modeling for you if you have a broken connection. I would imagine if I'm going there and have a broken heart, broken connection, you say divorce, relationship issues, and now I would imagine I would have trusting issues.
Yeah.
And I'm learning through this horse that, there's hope. I can trust. Also learning how to rely on yourself, I would imagine, too, when you're engaging in this partnership with the horse as well. Like, how do I...
Yeah, self-confidence.
Yeah.
And what it is just getting people to find that strength. Again, what we talked about, just find that strength. 20 to 30% of people are just absolute terrified from experiences with a horse are traumatic experiences they had when they were a kid.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they talk about the horses, and that's 100%. They say, I connected with the horse.
Yeah.
So we have to have safe horses, your A pen, your B pen, and we also have ponies, because the ponies are the ones that everybody could say, oh my God, they're so cute and they're beautiful.
It's like an icebreaker. It's playful, right? Yeah.
And if people are scared of a 1,100 pound horse, they're not going to be scared of a pony. So
good point.
Strategically, you have to set it up to where it's comfortable for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, but I just love what we do.
And it sounds like the horses love. How many horses do you have on the ranch?
This morning I fed up 14 horses. I have about 30 horses at the ranch, and about another 10 to 15. It's kind of like the farm system of a hockey team. You got your A.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You have your A pen, your B pen, then your up and comers.
Yeah. Right.
For us, it's all about
drafting season's coming up.
Yeah, that one looks good. It's got good legs, good muscle.
Scouts are out. Yeah, checking them out.
The mind is right on that horse, and really, it's about their temperament. So,
yeah. Have you ever had a horse whose temperament you have not been able to help overcome or manage?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have a horse that has ulcers.
Oh.
Yeah. So when one of our best horses has ulcers, as soon as you touch her on the left side, her name is Lulu. She turns back and she'll nip you.
Oh.
So she doesn't hurt people, but it's if she got somebody with some teeth, it wouldn't break their skin, but you just things like that.
Yeah.
So obviously we have to work with the vet and get her health right, and then we pull her from the program.
Yeah.
Then somebody from the minor teams gets called up.
I get to go play in the big leagues.
Yeah, you get called up. So we always have the backup plan to the backup plan. But the horses are the horses are the teachers at the ranch. We just facilitate, and the horses, the land, the trees, the rivers. Sonia has, we have a cedar sauna.
Okay, yeah.
We have a cold tub. We have a gazebo. We have a barn there for teaching.
Wow.
But really, it's the land. Being out on the land is the one that helps people connect.
Yeah. And I imagine that's what they tell you time and time again. That's probably what you hear from people as they leave, the connection that they've either reestablished or maybe discovered before they leave the land, I would imagine.
Yeah. Some people don't even want to leave. We have to, we gotta go do this. They're still outside. I'm like, you guys just stick around. And you guys can do what just don't go in the horse pens or try to do something dangerous. But
do people, is it day like sort of retreat, or do people stay on the ranch when they come do some of the workshops? And
we do everything from overnight stays.
Yeah. Okay.
But we try not, because when you're running a facility, a program like that, overnight stays can be a lot. Yeah. So if we do like James Smith, for instance, we got 50 of them come in. Yeah. We'll take them from 8 to 5 o'clock. Yeah. And then they go stay at the Grey Eagle Hotel and Casino. Right. And then we have to clean up and get things right. But some do stay overnight in a teepee, but it all depends. And we have clients we work with, programs that kids that have been in foster care systems and they come out for an hour. Or we work with clients like Calgary Flames, or we work with
some not-for-profits in the city, I would imagine, too. Some of the mental health programs.
Oh, a little bit of everything. Yeah. We have partnerships with Ambrose, the U of C. Yeah. We do a lot of diversity 101 teaching. Yeah. And that's my passion. Yeah. Is being able to showcase our culture, showcase our way of life, and put it into the ranch style setting. I do a lot of sports diversity talks.
Yeah, can we get into that?
Yeah.
So you've been playing hockey since you were like, what, 5, 6, like a little guy. You talk about, your website is wonderful. I suggest people get on. You have clips of your movie, which is it the 2020 Local Heroes documentary? Yeah. You're part of. And so you talk about putting these skates on and being on the reserve frozen slough, sometimes even frozen roads. Like you just discovered hockey. So like, and skating. So what do you remember that vibe, that feeling when you were that age? And do you still feel that way when you play?
Just like every other Canadian, I loved hockey.
Yeah.
I grew up playing it. I lived it, breathed it, dreamt about it, always wanted to be in the NHL. And just my hockey journey was something that I did as a kid.
Yeah.
The way I explain it is I loved it, I played it, and it got me off the res. Mm-hmm. It got me off the res, and I was able to play midget AAA with Calgary Royals, win a Royal Band Cup, meet wonderful, awesome people, scouted to go to different tryouts all over Western Canada, cut. So the ups and downs of hockey, it teaches you many, many lessons, blessings, to meet these driven hockey players and families that are so passionate about hockey. And then at 16, moving away from home again, mom and dad, and just being able to play at a national stage and be considered, like, at that age, one of the better hockey players in Canada.
Yeah.
And it was all because it's just for the love, for the passion. It's who you are. And then eventually getting notice from the Western Hockey League. Always an underdog, always considered not strong enough. I was always considered a chance or a stereotypical native, and they didn't want to take chances on me. So I had the labels, so I didn't let it bother me. I used it as finding that inner strength, because I always figured I'm going to work harder. I'm going to try this. I had good role models in my life.
Yeah.
And then eventually just made it to play in the Western Hockey League, signed pro contracts, played Florida, Pensacola, played all over the place, played with awesome people.
Yeah.
And then ended up kind of getting injured and going towards rodeo. And through my sports career, I was a 2-sport athlete, rodeo and hockey. And I'm so competitive. I always want to do good.
Yeah.
And it's not competitive against other guys. It's competitive against myself. And so after things, I think there was a moment, and it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
But it was also when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I knew what I wanted to do. But it was when my daughter and my wife were suffering racism in hockey and pro rodeos. That's when I knew I wanted to make a difference. And my daughter, it was constantly ridiculed for her hair and her skin color in hockey games. And my teachings were, don't complain. Just don't say nothing. Just play the game. Ignore them. Beat them on the scoreboard. And that was generational trauma being taught to me. It was silent, being oppressed. Our people been oppressed for hundreds and hundreds of years, to where it's drilled into your system to say, don't say nothing. So it broke my heart. And my wife came home one day crying. She said, I'm gonna give up. I quit.
Wow.
And I said, why? I hate it.
Yeah.
When I go to pro rodeos. And she told me what happened, but I'll just sum it up real quick. Somebody was using racist comments and nobody stood up for her. And they all laughed and joined. And it was like somebody was being racist, nobody said nothing. There was no allies, and they just joined. And I understand the mental issues. I understand the emotions, because at 45 years old, I've been dealing with it since I was 1 year old. And if you're not BIPOC or a person of color, it's hard to explain. If you're BIPOC or POC, you just have to tell a story, and then that other person will understand what we go through. So at that point in time, I'm just like, Kate, all in. I'm going to make a difference. How am I going to do it? So I reached out to my NHL buddies that were all First Nation, Black, I reached out to two guys that I respected in sports, Rob Kerr, and I reached out to Kevin, who runs a program, who's been doing Hockey Heroes. And I said, I'm so passionate. I want to make change in diversity. I had a partnership with the Calgary Flames. I reached out to the Calgary Flames, CSEC, and I said, this is what I'm going to be doing. And my very first diversity gig was in front of a grade 5 class. And I was nervous. I was so dang nervous. And these little kids were just all ears. And I got so emotional because I was telling my story on what happened to me on racism and diversity in sports. And eventually my wife said, you got to keep working on your program. You got to keep doing it. So we just refined our diversity program, awareness session, learned about the little kids, corporates, everything.
Yeah.
So a little over 3 years in now, 2.5 years, 3 years in. But eventually I went to do sports programs. And the reason why I wanted to do diversity in sports is because I had to tell my story. I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
It's my story. We lived it. We know what we've gone through. I suffered discrimination and racism. But I say it to where hockey was all positive. But I want to tell you about the 2% that we deal with. And this is how it went down. And I'm not joking. This is what happened. And then we give them tips. So we give them tips on how to be an ally. So I'll kind of walk you through.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it. Thank you.
So I have a presentation that I have when I go, and it starts off with my name, Dodginghorse. And I'll just tell you a quick story. This is 45 minutes, but I'll try to put it into about 10
I know. I almost feel like I have to somehow now wrangle you back. And maybe even with Sonia too, because I'm like, this could be a 3-part series. We could have done the ranch. We could have done pro hockey and the diversity and the motivational speaking. And we could do the question part, the things that I want to pick your brain about. So just so you know, you're coming back again.
All right.
And you've said all right now. So I have you on.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So I talk about my name, Dodginghorse, is the very first slide.
Okay.
So where it comes from is my grandma that lived to be 102, Katie Dodginghorse. She told me a story, and she told me a story about how her name came to be. Dodginghorse is a Tsuut'ina name, and the name is named after a warrior. So that warrior was in battle, and there was tribal warfare hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And there was, I guess, the enemies or another nation coming in. He jumped on his horse and was weaving through the enemies, and arrows were flying at him, and he was jumping over fires through the teepee. And he ended up getting in tribal warfare, and he escaped. But he was on the side of his horse riding. The horse was going over, not like bucking, but made it through. So he was extreme horseman, and he was a warrior. And that warrior was so impressive, he got the name Dodginghorse.
Wow.
And that's how the name stuck. And that's how our name came to be. Yeah. So I'm very proud of it. But I suffered a lot of issues growing up with that name. But I'm proud of it. But that's where my name came from. And there's a picture of Bullhead. 1877, the treaty was signed. 1877, the treaty was signed. Why is that so important? Because Calgary and this area and the territories on Treaty 7 First Nation, I talked about it. And that allowed, I got to be careful how I say it. So I reached out to the elders, and there's agreements in place, these treaty agreements, treaty right to health, treaty right to education, treaty right to housing. That's why our Native people have these treaties and agreements, because the chiefs allowed to share the land with the settlers, with the newcomers. And along with that came immigration. And the number one thing that happened in 1877, there was this huge thing. And the biggest thing was, it was communication. They didn't speak our language. The newcomers did not speak our language. So when they came to this land, they understood English. We spoke our languages. So the agreement was on a pen and on an understanding. So when they came here, they disrupted our ways. They put our people into boarding schools. And when they put those people into boarding schools, they took away our language They took away our land, our cultures, and our way of lives. Their plan was to eliminate our people. So if any nation people at that time did not allow their kids to go to boarding school, they'd be put in jail or something would happen to them. So imagine your kids being taken away from the RCMP and put in a boarding school, and you're not allowed to see them.
Nothing to do. You can't do anything.
So our people suffered abuse. Some of them were murdered. Some of them were killed. Some of them were tortured. And it's very tough for me to talk about this, but this is coming from our elder stories.
Yeah.
Our elders were considered projects of inhumane. They were fed dog food. They were on survival food. There was a lot of people that are suffering intergenerational trauma. So when you see these First Nation people, I don't see that. I know the history. I see strength and resilience. I see the strength that they're alive, the resilience that they're still doing good things and raising their families. That's what I see. I see strength. So fast forward that, then you have diversity. The governments used our land, our people, and the way they dealt with it. But it allowed diversity to come to Canada and Calgary. They used the railroads. They used certain immigrants and immigration to build these railroads in the cities at cheap labor. They would give them Indigenous lands all around Canada. And that's why you're seeing a lot of land settlements coming back to First Nations, because Canada did our people differently. And then you fast forward to today, you look at the city of Calgary, 69 to 70% Caucasian and white people in Calgary. So they're the highly populated race. And then 25% is these beautiful cultures, Punjabi cultures, Indians, Southeast Asia, Kenyans. There's all these beautiful cultures that bring these values to Calgary and these beautiful languages and the way of life. And it's like a melting pot. And then you have your 4% Indigenous, and then you have your Métis and Inuit. So those are the real numbers that come from Calgary. And then you're really looking at diversity in a different way. And then you look at the hockey aspect. My grown-up days is everything I said. I absolutely love hockey and what it's done for me. It's been my life, and everything, the ranch, my values, everything is around hockey. But it's the racism and discrimination that happened to me that I'm here to talk about. So when I played hockey in BC Junior Hockey League on the island, there was one community out there that was, every time I went there, I'd hear, "You effing Indian, you don't belong here." Their team would kind of throw cheap shots at me on the ice. And the way I was taught was I'd just block it out. But anyways, we got into a scuffle in the penalty box. Their fans poured beer on me and threatened to kill me just because of my skin color. And they come over to the bench, and full-grown men were absolute racist a-holes. And they wanted to kill me because of my skin color. And I know you just don't know if they're going to do it or not. And then they put us in, after the game, they're waiting outside, and they put me in the bus, and we call the RCMP, and the RCMP said, "Sorry, we can't do anything about it." And that's the way racism and discrimination is in some areas. It's institutionalized. It's in the hospitals. It's in the RCMP. It's in South Center. It's taught.
It's an education.
It's an education. But I have to tell that story because I've lived it. And fast forward a couple of years later, playing with the Calgary Hitmen, or 2 years later with the Calgary Hitmen, playing at the Saddle Dome, there was a team that was absolutely racist towards me, and that was the Medicine Hat Tigers. And I would hear comments. They'd be spitting at me every time a ref would turn their back. They would be systematically trying to get under my skin, but that was their way of trying to get me to break, because I thought I was a key to the team, but I had to hold my composure. So one guy come up to me and punched me in the face and used a derogatory term, and we ended up fighting and got out of the penalty box. They sent another guy, and it was all around race. Their strategy was around race. The refs didn't probably know, and there was fights in the stands because there's some visible minorities from the Northwest that heard what was going on. So there's like fights all over, all about racism.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was very emotional. They didn't know how to deal with it. It got to Hockey Night in Canada. It got to the Globe and Mail, and the Western Hockey League just made us shake hands and said they pretended. I shouldn't say they pretended. They didn't know any better at the time, but they thought by just shaking hands it's going to be over. But it wasn't. It continued. So
it's like just comments made that you would at a game versus dealing with the fact that we're talking about human rights violation. Yeah. It's like somebody saying, oh yeah, here, just, it's okay, because you would shake hands if you got into a fight for a wrong play at the end of the game. That's good sportsmanship. So it's unfortunate that those were the messages at the time. And like you said, because no one that should know knew what to do about it.
Yeah.
And you're being told, just focus on the game. So do you feel at the time you're doing you're doing right by you? Like, do you feel that is what you should have been doing at that time? I mean, I bet now you would look at it different, I would imagine. But at that time, what were you like? There's got to be something different here. What were you thinking?
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Because that's all I knew was to shut up and not say anything and play the game.
You were a kid too.
And I was told to, I was 19, 20 at that time, but I was told, beat them on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Or sometimes beat the crap out of them, and which I did. So I was a fighter.
Yeah.
So at that time I knew how to fight. I wasn't very big, but I could handle myself.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, 20 years later, I finally find the courage to speak up. I do the right thing, and I reach out to every single POC, person of color, that I knew, or BIPOC person. And the number one or number two things that were recommended was education and awareness. People need to hear your story, and then we have to give them tips on how to say no, or that's not right, or that's not good. And to basically sum it up, Hockey Canada hasn't provided any diversity education for young athletes or young hockey players. I'm at the stage of my life where I'm not going to talk to talk. I'm going to walk to walk. I'm just going to do it. Instead of waiting for the system to do it, I'm just going to, I'm a doer. I'm just going to go and do it. So I just start doing it. So where it's taken me to the grade 5 classroom, to Western Canadian hockey camp with Terry Braun, to educators, to oil and gas industries, to my friends at the CSEC, Calgary Saddle Dome, Mike Moore and his bunch, and Coach Sutter, and being able to partnership with the Calgary Flames, do the right thing, because that partnership is with the Flames, and telling my story, awareness sessions to their top 50 draft picks and signed athletes and their NHL players. It's resonated with the sports community that if my awareness session is able to be at that level, it can be anywhere, and people are listening.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, I really enjoy it, but it's giving them tips to where when it happens in hockey, and I use a guy by the name of Jerome McGinley. Don't ask me why, but my wife was the one to said, you played with Jerome? I said, yeah. What was the biggest learning lesson? I said, man, he had integrity. I messed up once when I was playing in Kamloops, and I was getting ready to jump on the ice, and I spit and I spit on the dasher board on the Kamloops Blazers bench. And Jerome grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "Stop, you don't do that. Grab that water bottle and clean that up." And I said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Ginla." And I cleaned it up. And after the practice, or after that exhibition game, he was waiting for me underneath. And I thought, oh shit, I'm in trouble. But he corrected me and said, the reason why I said that, he said, look up in the stands. If you're going to play here, you got to represent this jersey. You got to be a good human being. We don't do that here. You take care of this. Then he invited me out to meet with the guys and work out. But he had the integrity to step up when I did something wrong and say, hey, that's not right. So that's the message that we have in our sports diversity presentation, to say, if you're going to run into discrimination or racism in the locker room, at work, at anywhere in the family settings, have that integrity and have that courage, because we need the 70% of this population to step up and say, that's not right.
Yeah.
What you said right there doesn't go well with me. Yeah. And if we can get the 70% of our population on our nation is 30 and under, and it intrigues me and it inspires me that they get it. And everywhere I do these presentations, these kids, and it's probably because of TikTok and what they learn on YouTube, they get diversity, they get respect and identity. Because when you look at the stage of sports, you have all these beautiful cultures and beautiful people. And the one thing I always talk about in sports is identity. Yeah. Respect that identity of who you are as a person, your culture, your language. Don't go at them with their skin color or their language or their culture. Why don't we get to know them as just human beings? Yeah. And if they're out of line, that's when we have to be able to say, look, that's not right. Yeah. So companies, corporations, they're coming up with policies now. They're coming up with repercussions that it's not right in this setting, that you can't blatantly say that now, because we have to have that respect for people.
What do you think that means for the people that, because there's the covert racism where, and that's what I struggle with. It's not the racist man on his lawn across the street that yells all sorts of things at us. He's not well to me. That's a different thing to me. I'm talking about covert, where it's these little microaggressions, and it's because Punjabi person or Sikh person, did this to me. Now, all of these people are this way. I don't like them. All the Indigenous people are this way. All the Asian people are this way. And so then you start to experience these little things that start coming out subtly or quietly. And so there's going to be people out there that just aren't prepared for this change that you're talking about that is happening. Today you are able to go backwards to that time where you didn't have what was necessary. And I think a lot, that 25-30% that just in Calgary that is making up with us minorities, we're starting to build a voice and we're starting to come together. Yep. It's like Transformers. We're stronger if you and I and all of us, right? Yeah, exactly. Form together. Yep. But I don't want those of us now that are speaking up to do the same thing that we received on our end, the being passive aggressive, being aggressive, or, sometimes we can be sitting in a setting and be like, oh, white people this, like because we have so much more room for voice now. And my worry is that the pendulum's going to be swinging the complete opposite way. And I'm trying to find a way to say, I'm still angry about things, but how do we work with the folks, or what can we do for that percentage of folks out there that aren't ready for this change that you're talking about?
Two things. So two things that come to mind is, when I started this journey, I was scared shitless. I was worried about what you're talking about, whether you call it covert, I call it systematic racism, or I call it an older generation. Yeah. And so when I asked Halukwa, the oldest people on our reserves, that they're the wisest. And I said, I'm scared. How do I do it? And she said, not sitside. She said, strength. She said, love and kindness. If you show anger, if you show hate, people aren't going to listen. Mm-hmm. So when I did this, I had to really think about it on how I did my presentations, because I had to be able to come across to where I was being genuine. Yeah. And our people have been kind, and our people have been nice, and our people have been sharing for thousands of years. That's how our people. Mm-hmm. But so that's what I had to do. So when I got into this, I had a diversity mentor, and I said, she said, you're now going into a global stage, or you're going to go into an area where people aren't going to agree with you. And she said, I've been doing diversity presentations for 20 years. And my good friend, my mentor, his name is Holly. She said, I've had people, Caucasian or white people, step up in my presentation and start yelling at me and saying, I don't agree with this, I'm out of here. F this, F that. And she's a professional. Mm-hmm. And she said, you have to expect that. Mm. And at the end of the day, when your presentations or your diversity work is done, you have to learn to de-stress yourself. You have to learn not to take that negativity with you. Otherwise, when you take that home with you, it affects your health, it affects your relationships, and it's going to affect your way of life for your kids. They're going to feel that energy. So I really took that to heart, mm-hmm. and I start practicing ways to better myself when I work in diversity. I practice ways to keep my mind positive, everything I do, and a way to take care of my mind, my body, my soul, and my spirit, so I don't take on that energy. Yeah. And I always remember the teachings of the elders and the mentors, that you leave that, don't take it home with you, and you got to believe that you're doing a good job, and don't take that negative stuff with you, because it'll resonate in your presentations or your work. Yeah. So the way I see it, I made it real simple in my head. When I'm doing diversity work, there's a generation, there's the older generation and the younger generation. There's the 35 and under that are going to get what you're doing. Mm-hmm. 40-ish to 70 to 80 mm-hmm. to 90 are going to be like a bag of concrete. So when you leave that bag of concrete outside and it rains, those mindsets are going to form. Mm-hmm. And those mindsets are formed already. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be tough to chip away at it. Sometimes that bag of concrete will chip away and you can mm-hmm. get at it. Yeah. But sometimes that concrete's going to be set. Yeah. And I don't worry about it. So, and then I start just concentrating on the circle of diversity. People that are going to be helping you, yeah. building your programs, building awareness. I have a Sikh or Punjabi friend that gives me all my data, and he's from BC. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, straight up. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Everything, stats, yeah. We see the same way because we're advocates. Yeah. POC, people of color. Yeah. Every region that I speak to, yeah. just like, hey, bro, yeah. here's the information. So yeah. we speak on stats, and we were one of the first people that to really lobby this government in Calgary to start saying, you got to be able to show diversity stats. Why does the government have diversity stats? Why? Because they capitalize on diversity. Exactly. Yeah. Industry, they sell their votes, and I'm like, let's use it for educational purposes. Right. So we actually got it out now, and we work with government leaders to say, just publicize it. Yeah. Yeah, like their facts are out there. Why not? And then we can. Data doesn't lie. Mm-hmm. So we can make our own assessment of what does that mean and where. And I think that's also where numbers are helpful, stats are helpful, because you can see where can we focus, where do we need to know that 70-ish% of Calgary is primarily Caucasians.
And then the small percentage from other visible minorities to the Indigenous community, that's a small number, but it's not bad. You think when you said 30%, I thought, okay, that also is helpful for anyone that feels so isolated out here, to know there's more voices out there that, again, think of Transformers. If we can, you and your buddy in BC, a great example of coming together and chipping away at it together, right? How can we help each other? And
1.4 million people in Calgary.
Yeah.
Surrounding areas, 1.6. Canada just hit 40 million people 2 weeks ago. So you look at the demographics of Calgary, of how many kids that are registered in sports. And that's why I concentrate on sports, because everybody can resonate with sports.
Yeah.
And the whole presentation is around sports and how we're going to make, it's an interactive presentation where I'm not talking with people to preach at them.
Yeah.
My whole presentation's on feedback or asking questions
right.
So, and nowadays 2 hours, 3 hours is too much. So you have a 35-40 minute presentation, impact, a few videos, and because TikTok's really changed the landscape
you need
of
like
everything
10 seconds.
Yeah.
Even music from our generation, like songs were 4 to 5 minutes long. And I mean, I know times before were even longer. And now you listen to radio, 2-minute snippets, and even that's too long. Like everybody's just sort of filtering their ability to focus, because there's so much coming at us too.
Yeah.
Social media on one hand has really helped a lot of minority voices feel that there's a platform to be able to speak up. However, at the same time, there is a lot of this, right? I'm one of many podcasters just even out here in Calgary. I've had the opportunity of meeting a few, and they're sort of doing similar stuff in terms of let's get this out there. Let's talk. Let's help people maybe change the pace a bit. And so anyways, back to anything you want to add about the presentation, anything else? Because I know I'm really bad at cutting off, and I cut you off there.
I think the exciting part is we're getting at the stage now where we've impacted thousands and thousands of in-person presentations, schools, organizations, teams, corporates, workplace. The feedback is phenomenal.
Yeah.
We're able to help people navigate through diversity situations and give them tips. I think we're at the stage now where we need to be, or we're at the stage now where we're going to be open to be putting impact presentations online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have you noticed a change from your time of playing to when you meet these young players now?
Yeah.
Do you feel that there is change happening? Like there's hope?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Most definitely.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest change that you've seen from when you were playing?
The kids get it nowadays. They're smart. They're in touch with technology. They understand culture. They understand mixed diversity.
Yeah.
They understand it now. But they're kids. They still need it. Times have changed now.
Yeah.
But
they have in some ways.
In some ways, but it's still there.
Yes.
Most definitely it's still there, because you have an older person that's coaching the team, or a grandparent that's teaching the kids, and the kids will make comments.
Yes.
And to this day, I still get, oh man, my phone rings off the hook every week about something that happened in BC, or where Comox, or I get Red Deer, the Red Deer coach calling me about an incident that happened there, or a First Nation kid that was treated, or a Black kid that was absolutely, in a way I call it, I don't want to say that word, but he was discriminated for 2 years in the Western Hockey League, or East Coast League. The list goes on and on. So I think now my main deal was to do it in person, because I'm old school. If you say it, people are going to feel my emotions.
100%, yeah.
But now we're going to branch off, and I want to be able to train the trainers, so more POCs are doing what I'm doing, but just using my template, or the DH Ranch template.
Right.
And then you're just going to create a whole awareness of sports people telling their story and creating videos to where
Right.
it's going to affect millions of people, because there is a lot of cool people out there that are doing it, but in a different way.
Totally. Yeah. And I think you speak really well about the bystander piece, and you cover that in your presentation as well. I think when these sorts of moments happen, I feel the people that are actually the most powerful are the bystanders standing there, whether it's one or a few. And it's very interesting, right? Yeah. Like, what are they going to do? Are you going to go with it? Are you going to say doing nothing is doing something too?
Yeah.
And so how are you going to play that out? Right.
So when we thought about this and talked about this, how do we react best? When you call somebody out or when you encourage them?
Yeah.
Obviously, when you encourage them.
Right.
So we called it the ally piece.
The ally piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allyship.
Yeah.
So if we encourage them to be an ally and we encourage them and give them the tools, they're going to do it. But if we call them bystanders or, people that are just standing back, most times they're just going to stand back.
Continue to play that role.
So you have to be able to encourage
change the
them.
name, change the role. So
we strategically thought about it and said, you guys are allies or your allyship. And the reason why you're important, we're encouraging them.
Yeah.
So now you're seeing executives from all over the place that come to our program, our sports people. They love that.
Good.
Because they're able to say, I play a role in diversity.
Yes.
Or now, like, I'll just give you examples. The NHL reached out to me last week, I'm going to be working with their refs. So we'll be talking about diversity, and we'll be talking about the role they play. And it's very intriguing to see different organizations, right from schools to the NHL, to the Calgary Flames, to the guy that works at Dairy Queen that owns it. That's a POC.
Yeah.
It's
service industry for sure could use some support for sure.
It affects everybody.
Yes.
At every level.
Yes.
So we work with service industry too, but it's everybody has to do their part.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. Because you think of just even communities where people of color, being a child of immigrant parents, that's my big life lesson, I guess I'm learning in my 40s. But that part of who I am, and I had to get to a place where I had to understand that I am a child of immigrant parents. Yeah. Now I can start to do the healing and the work and whatever may come after, but I didn't understand that for years. And I think you see a lot of people that have immigrated over, or people of color that are stay-at-home parents and don't have a work to go to, don't have a place to go, but are feeling so isolated in their community as well because there's not familiarity. And so I think the more you and I and all of us, whoever is interested in being part of these passion projects, I think can get on and branch out and get this out there. I think the more people can start to see that, okay, there are other alternatives, there are other ways to respond. I was going to ask you though, do you ever have conversations with Caucasian people about, I don't know, maybe you're finding it now or not, but I'm noticing because so many people of color are starting to feel they can speak up, I'm noticing Caucasian, I have family, I have friends, I read about it, that are feeling very targeted and also are feeling sensitive, are feeling hurt, are feeling upset because to me, I see it as it's a change and it's a ripple effect. But I think for people that I've individually spoke to that are Caucasian, they're feeling that I just don't know how to be anymore. I feel if I say anything or do anything, it doesn't matter now because automatically I'm white.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't speak about this, but I have a lot of Caucasian allies that talk about this better than I can.
Yeah.
And I will only say what they're saying to me.
Yes.
But it's something that they articulate as white privilege.
Yeah.
And when criticism or diversity comes back to them, they get defensive.
Yeah.
And these are defensive mechanisms that my good friend Renee Price explains that they play such a big role in combating and helping, but being an ally and allyship. But when she said she had to educate herself because she's never dealt with with discrimination or racism. So when something comes back to them, they get defensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, Brent, I don't know how to say it, but it's so weird when we talk about diversity that my whole community in Lake Buena Vista, because she used to live down the road, gets defensive. Yeah. And I said, it's okay. It's okay, because they're feeling the emotions that POCs have been feeling their whole life. Have they been followed around Max or Costco or profiled or pulled over or
not allowed to go across the border because they have their home country stamp on, like all sorts of things.
Or at the keg, have you not been served or not served because your skin color?
That's exactly what happened at the National, right? Yeah, I'm not giving you any alcohol because A, you're Indian, and B, your people don't tip. So these are you're right. Like but I guess I don't want to be insensitive to I'm about all humans. Yeah. And I think that's a message I'm getting from you too. I think we have some personal work and responsibility, but also there's a way to go about with allyship, as you're saying, where we can help teach, but doing it in a way that people want to be influenced and people want to learn.
So I guess when it comes to that, I can't speak to that because I've never been in that situation, but I have friends and I really rely on, Renee Price and a lot of my good friends. My network is on LinkedIn and our socials, and we're respectful of people's identities. And if they feel that way, this is the way I feel, and I mean to offend you, and I'm sincerely sorry about it, and I'll try to be a better person next time. And that's the way I go about it, but I can't carry that the way they feel on. And, we'll just try work it out in a good way.
Yeah. So, yeah. I know you have to go soon. And so how much more time do I have with you?
We can go for a little. I'm enjoying it.
I know. I knew. I see. Yeah. I knew I just had to get you here. Yeah. And then
we're good.
We have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the sports. So what do you want to say here that maybe we haven't talked about in terms of the professional sports and your work that you're doing with NHL, with players?
Well, CSEC is part of the Calgary Sports and Entertainment.
Okay.
So Mike Moore oversees the Roughnecks, the Hitmen, and the minor league team, the Calgary Anglers. So obviously we got to sit down and have a golf game and plan on how we're, there's a lot of diversity in football too, but the majority of the players on certain special teams are POCs and they understand it. Yeah. So I think we have to talk about strategies, phase 1, phase 2. Yeah. As this sports continues to bring people together, it goes back to the teachings of our Halukwa, our elders, that traditional games have been around for thousands of years in our teachings. What it's meant to do is bring people together. It's meant to showcase cultures. It's meant to showcase languages. And the March 17th game of the Calgary Flames is a perfect example of showcasing cultures, leadership, the chiefs, the allies of the people of the world, the Caucasian white people, the POCs, to show that we can all get together and celebrate our beautiful culture over a game of hockey. And that's what it's meant to do. Yeah. So that's why sports is so important. Yeah. And
well, it starts so young, right? Like you said, it starts with the littles. Yeah. And the hope is that we can be in a community where families can afford to put their kids in sports, because we know how well that supports mental health and healthy growing, learning how to have sportsmanship, all sorts of things, winning, losing, all that. But then on top of that, when there's opportunities to learn from people like you who have experienced the hardships and the struggles that sometimes sports can bring, I think this is a really good lesson for even leadership levels, the management, and trickling all the way down. Like, it's cool to hear that you're going to talk with refs, because I bet you refs have it. They are the definition of what you're talking about when you say going from being bystander to allyship. When you're on the ice, they have an opportunity to play a different role.
There's 3 emotions when you deal with diversity. you feel, well, we're almost like a horse. There's the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn means we hide behind our parents. So people have to recognize those emotions, because when they're coming at us with racial taunts or diversity, we feel those emotions.
100%. Yeah.
And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we bottle it in. I was the freeze, but I was also the fight. So I would, if I wasn't going to beat you up that time, I would find the time to fight you, and then I would knock the snot out of you during a hockey game. But I have to learn to control my emotions. But that's what people don't understand. So when I do my presentations, I have the 3 R's. So the very first thing when racism or discrimination happens, we have to be able to calm down, and we have to be able to review it in our head, review it with our coach, review it with our teammates. Did this just happen? Because you're shocked. So pull your team aside and just say, this is just what happened. I can't believe it, but this is what happened. And then after you review it, then you have to be able to react. So reacting is, hey coach, the ref come over here, this is what happened. Or parent, the manager come down. Johnny just suffered it again. Look at him curled up in a corner, or he wants to punch somebody out. Take care of him.
Right.
But also take care of the person that was doing it.
Yes.
Whether it was in the office, whether it was in the family, whether they didn't mean it, whether they intentionally meant to do it, take care of their well-being too. And then the very last one is the 3rd R is resolve it. We have to be able to resolve it to where we talk about it. We say, hey, that wasn't right. This little Johnny was dealing with it again. This happened again and again. This person over here that was doing it, we have to come to a stage where we can resolve it. Because if we don't resolve it, what happens?
What happens again?
You go into your 5 Fs. It's a continuous cycle. So it goes back to education, awareness, the values of kindness, teaching. And then, so it all comes in a circle, right? So you have this Indigenous circle of red, white, blue, and yellow. And that represents the colors of the POCs, people of color, white, Caucasian people, Black people, yellow people, Indian people, First Nation people. And the circle represents we must live in unity with kindness. So it goes back thousands of years of our teachings.
So what would you say, you've been doing some work with NHL, some work with some of these pro sports organizations. What would you say from moving forward? You've said things are looking better. There are changes happening. If there's one thing that you think would be a really, really helpful change with something like an NHL organization there, what would you suggest is that change that needs to happen?
Build partnerships and relationships, because you're gonna feel that true relationship and partnership that people want to make you change. A lot of times people are going to reach out to you, have a cup of coffee with them, have a cup of water, get to know them. If they want to make true changes, they're partners. And if they implement your suggestions as whatever advisor, then you found true partnerships and relationships. Some people are just going to check boxes because they said they want to do it. So you have to find true people or true organizations, and only you will know that. So I understand that it's a long journey that we're going into, and it's very gratifying and very life-changing, but it can be rocky, and you just have to stay balanced and stay connected.
Right.
So that would be my advice.
I mean, it's been nice, like even just talking about the NHL. I know there was recent controversy that some of the diversity and celebrations are going to come to a halt And I remember this happening at certain workplaces and schools when there's so many different cultures and events to celebrate. It becomes overwhelming and then worrisome, and you think you're offending the culture that you forgot to celebrate on this date and that day. And so it becomes about all the wrong things. And so I know the organization, NHL's sort of made this comment, or they're saying they're not going to really be moving forward doing a whole lot of these sorts of diverse celebrations. Have you heard of anything like that as well? It breaks my heart, especially seeing what the Canucks are doing out in BC, and even here we have seen, like you said, March 17th was a really, really memorable day. But I don't feel like I've been seeing a whole lot more. So I'm like, is this true? Is this coming to a halt?
At that certain time, there's people that are going to, for religious beliefs, say they don't believe in the Two-Spirit. I advocate for Two-Spirit in my presentations. I advocate for gay hockey players because it's who they are. They were born that way. Mm-hmm. And our elders' teachings, it goes back to the elders, Halukwa, Ina, Bernice, Ina, Keitha, that they said they live in two worlds, the men's world and the ladies' world. So they bring kindness, they bring different aspects. So we have to respect their identity. Mm-hmm. And because the NHL is not doing it, doesn't mean that us at the grassroots level don't do it. Mm-hmm. I think there's more impact done at the grassroots level. I've waited for a lot of things to happen at the top level, but sometimes things will get done quicker, more efficient, in a better way at the grassroots level. Mm-hmm. So it's too bad that it has to happen that way, but that doesn't stop us from doing what we're doing and make an impact to my target audience is the 35 and under in sports. There's a lot of people that are running organizations that get it and some don't get it. And
yeah, it's fair, hey?
It goes back to the partnerships and relationships things. You're going to know when people are running alongside you, doing the same thing you're doing, and you feel that you're doing the right thing. Yeah. That's all that matters to me.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's well said. I really do. I think we have choice, all of us, and bad things happen to many of us. And I think maybe as humans, we can all say at some point something bad has happened. And when we can feel like we have a choice and know how to take charge, and I'm capable of doing something, maybe, not at this high level place that I'd like to, but I know every day if I choose to be a good human and come from a learning of being curious, maybe I'll be able to make a difference. And I try to remember it that way, because it does get overwhelming thinking about the people that aren't allies, the people that aren't, it's like you have a party, and instead of celebrating the people that came to the party, we can worry about and be sad about the people that didn't show up. Yeah. And I like that you've talked consistently today about honoring the ones that are showing up, celebrating with the ones that are here, versus why didn't so-and-so. So I really appreciate that message, because I think that helps light my light in some ways. It helps me feel like, oh, there's hope and we can shine, versus focusing on that.
Not everybody's going to agree with what you're doing.
No, I agree, right?
On my nation and around our community is people will say they support you, but sometimes they don't. So they'll talk about certain things and spread rumors and spread lies. But they say talk is bad medicine. Mm-hmm. They say bad talk is. So the way I see it is the ones that don't, people always come up to me and they'll say, you know what this person said? I try not to put too much energy into the negative things in life, because I'm more at the stage now where I'm more concentrated on my goals, my visions, and people that filled my my positivity instead of draining my negative, the negative side. So it's really gratifying when you really look at the people through your emails and your texts and your impact work that support it. And, it's your mind starts thinking about the negative and it overtakes the negative. Yeah. But we have to train the way we think about certain things, to not let that take it over.
Yeah.
So whether it's working out, whether it's being on the land or being around horses, doing the positive things so that negative doesn't take over, because the world is such a good place, but there is some negative stuff. But if we let it overtake our mind thought and our way of life, it's like a snowball.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's well said. Okay, so I'm not going to forget. I forgot to do the middle fingers up segment with Harpreet Pandare. He hosts the Punjabi Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi edition. And I was so starstruck, and I was like, I refuse to ever forget again. And so I have almost, an hour and a half in, have not yet done it with you. So what is something you brought with you today that you want to put your middle fingers up to? You want to get off your chest?
Honestly, I don't really have too much as far as like, I want to say F you or finger anybody.
Yeah.
I've been working on the way I approach things in my mind and my spirit for 3 years and 4 years. And it's more just about, trying to appreciate the little things and trying to appreciate the gifts of the Creator and the gifts of family and the good things that we get to do. When the world gets overwhelmed and the social media blows up, just disconnect and listen to the birds outside, or have coffee, or go for a walk and work out. And I found when I was mad at a certain person, because all they did was criticize everything I did. Whether I worked with Calgary, CSEC, whether I was on Hockey Night in Canada, whether I was working, volunteering, they would watch you and criticize you and stab you in the back, shake your hand. The more I was worried about certain people, it made me mad and angry. And then I felt it in my body, in my feet. And because I have MS, I felt it affecting me. Yeah. And I said, this person they may criticize me, or they may do everything, but the moment I just wished them well. And I just said, it is who they are. I don't know what they're going through. But for whatever reason, they must come at me all the time, or talk about me, or do this or do that. It's okay. That means I must be doing something okay. And the reason why I'm just living life. And I know that I have a certain time frame on this beautiful place that we call Calgary, and Tsuut'ina Nation, where I live, and I got my family and my horses and the people around me, that I just didn't want to be in that constant on my toes or this or that. So I just started living life, and I don't really have any FUs to tell you the truth.
I like what you said. No, I think that's good. You and I had I had a radio host, Andrew Ueno of Virgin Radio on, and you two are there's so many similarities, and your conversation with him, and he also was like, I don't really feel like I have anything to put my middle fingers up to, but I will say. So I was like, oh, reminds me of that conversation. So I appreciate that. I'll take it. Okay, so is there anything that you wish? These are last two questions. We're going to do closing arguments now. So is there anything that you wish I had asked you today, or that you were really hoping to share that maybe we didn't talk about?
The struggle.
The struggle is real.
The struggle is real, but the struggle and the reminder is not sitsita, is strength. When you find it inside you, you're going to get these valuable skills that you never knew you had. Whether it's teachings from your grandparents or your parents, or school teachings, or whatever teachings, that struggle is okay. Yeah. And that it's only going to make you better, stronger, resilient, and give you that strength. So everything that we go through is mapped out already. They say the Creator already has our life mapped out for us, and that these peaks, valleys, ups and downs through the creeks, these obstacles are already mapped out. And we're just gaining this. I used to stress about certain things in my life, but I'm 45 years old now, and I'm still learning. Yeah. And that the struggle can be good, and that I've dealt with so much at 45. My best friends passed away to suicide. My I've honestly had about 350 deaths in 15 years on our nation in Treaty 7 territory because of what our Native people have gone through, oppression and generational trauma, drugs, alcohol. Not all of them, but I've seen the hurt and the pain. And I'm grateful for those lessons and blessings that those people that passed on taught me and the way our communities come together. But I just knew it was that the struggle of not being supported by your own people or people that are just trying to chop your business down or spread rumors about you, that you're growing and you're doing a good thing, that everything you do and your neighbor may not like what you're doing and they want this out of it, or they want monetary gain, or you know what I mean? It's just it's like, if you stick to your values and how we're helping people, it's all that matters. And you're doing what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah. It's authentic and it's genuine because it's coming from you versus what sometimes I think we feel we have to do for others. Those external measures, the people, we have to be a certain way for people. We have to behave a certain way. But I do appreciate what you're saying about, you know, my husband always says this to me when I get lost with the show, because sometimes I'm like, what about the listeners? Like, maybe they're not getting what they need. Maybe they need something different. And then you get the imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm not the one that should be doing this. And he's always so helpful at reminding me that if you are doing what you are genuinely passionate and curious about, people will come along. And even if they don't, you're getting something out of it because it's genuine versus trying to fulfill something for someone. How do we know how to, I think that's the thing. We try to fulfill things for people and we don't even know because we didn't sit down and have that coffee or that water with them. And we assume we know what the other person wants.
Yeah. There's an Indigenous podcaster that we call the Podfather. Yeah. His name's
that's clever.
Nathan Arias.
Yeah.
And that's what he says. Just be who you are. It goes back to the teachings, and Willis Janvier does Dene Yate, and he does his based around language and culture and educating people, and he's just be who you are. Yeah. So.
Okay, so just for our listeners today, what is one thing that you can leave them with that you would hope maybe if we were all at your presentation today, what is one thing that you would hope that we would leave with or can think about or maybe even do immediately?
Whether you're at a business, sporting event, family event, doesn't matter, sports, just do me one favor. There's an uncomfortable silence at every event, and it comes most times around diversity. Go and shake somebody's hand. Get to know them. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know who they are. You may have a stereotype in their head that they're like this or that their race is like that. Do me one favor. Events, sports, business, go and shake their hand and get to know them. That's all I ask.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I don't know how to follow that. I kind of wanted to send it right there. But maybe I will at this point just say to our listeners as we come to an end that this conversation hopefully is one of few more. I'll keep working on getting Brent to come back. But I just want to thank everyone for listening today. And also remember, these conversations are door openers. So if what Brent and I talked about today maybe stirred something, sparked some curiosity, send your feedback, send your questions, send your thoughts. I love hearing from everyone. And you can reach me at info@mfupodcast.com or on Instagram at MFU Podcast. Brent, I'm going to put up your website when we post this.
dhranch44.com.
Perfect.
Sonia Dodge on TikTok. Brent Dodginghorse on LinkedIn. And Snapchat's just my buddies and stuff.
No, you have to be lucky to get invited to that one.
No, I don't really. It's just buddies. And hockey buddies.
Yeah.
But it's
silly.
It's B Dodger on Snapchat.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. And we'll put all these out there too when we post the episode. I just want to thank you again so much for coming on today, talking to me, making the space and time to teach me. You did a lot of teaching today, and it was all just sitting in one room having a conversation about how can we be humans together. So thank you for role modeling what you've been asking us along the way in the last hour and a half about sit with someone, have a coffee, have a water. And that's exactly what you did with me. And we got to know each other. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for being patient. I really appreciate it. Just offer encouragement. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a really, really good job. And I'm very impressed. And just show that strength and resiliency and keep on doing what you're doing. If you love it, do it.
Thank you for that.
Ba 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 ba